Many of you have already sent in your 2024 Prelim papers, and here's the first one. Is this paper anything special? Find out in today's episode of PPR! Alright, welcome back to another video. This is Yaola from Vantage Tutor, a class above the rest. And for today's Prelim paper review, it is the first of many 2024 papers that you have shared with me. It is from 2024 Bedok South Secondary School E Math Paper 1. Now before I go into the details, these are the questions that I feel are interesting and probably worth your time to try. And for the students who like to have a go at this paper, you are invited to join my Telegram channel where I've uploaded a summary along with a download link on my blog. Have a go at it, let me know how you did. And I know a lot of you are very eager to participate in my Prelim paper review. So for the first time ever, these are the ratings given by my current Sec 4 O-Level E Math student for this Prelim paper. Do you agree with it? So what do I think about it? Do I agree with my student? Find out via my 3 matrices. Number 1, relevance. Number 2, insightfulness. Number 3, difficulty, before I give an overall score and recommend to you the type of students who should try this paper. And of course, if I had a student who had to sit for this paper under exam condition, what would be a fair expectation of her from me in order for her to score an A in her actual O-levels? Firstly, relevance. This paper happens to be one of the most relevant paper because there are really not too many surprises in there. More or less the questions, you see them, you expect them, you say that it's fair game. And very often in paper 1, you are very concerned with the smaller topics: inverse proportion, direct proportion, simple algebra manipulation, percentage, similar figures and whatnot. They are all found in this paper and really they are nothing too special, nothing too out of the sort. There are some level of spiciness to them, but it is something that you can agree on. Furthermore, in this paper, it included a graph that happened last year in O-levels, which is the graph where there is an asymptote. No surprise here because generally that's what Singapore schools do. Last year something happened that nobody foresee. Every Prelim paper this year would have element of that question, and you see that in this paper as well. And I think the biggest praise I can give to this paper in terms of relevance is that most of the questions here are what you expect, and hence the relevance of this paper will be given a rather high, a rather solid 7.5 out of 10. Next, insightfulness. There are questions in this paper that requires explanation, which is generally what I look out for in an E-Math paper. Gone are the days where questions are very much focused on calculation only without having you to explain anything. There are some elements of explanation required in this paper, and that's great. But beyond that, what I particularly like about the insightfulness of this paper comes from the shorter questions. Your direct and inverse proportion, your similar figures. The questions that they are asking in such topics is so-called the hardest form possible when you were in Sec 3 or Sec 2. And really, this is as hard as it gets. But why do I emphasize it on being Sec 3 and Sec 2 is because now that you're Sec 4, this question should appear at least solvable to you. It may not have to be direct to you, but you know the direction it's going towards. You know the tricks to this question. It's just taking time to figure this out. Beyond that, as I said, the rest of the paper is nothing too special. There are some small insights in there, but we can all agree that it's somewhat fair. And hence, the insightfulness of this paper will be given a rather average 6.5 out of 10. Next, difficulty. Time management shouldn't be an issue because, like I said, most of the paper feels familiar to you. However, there are some small details in the paper that you need to take note of, and those are the parts that ramps up the difficulty a bit. Some of the difficult part comes in the form of the numbers that you have to manipulate. It could be fractions, it could be recurring decimal. They are just numbers that will throw you off a bit because generally in eMath, you know you're expecting a nice number as your final answer, and when you don't, you tend to second guess yourself. And for students who rely on having nice answers, this paper is going to cause you to second guess yourself rather often as you move through. Generally, it would appear that this is a rather tedious paper, but most students would still find this paper manageable and nothing too far-fetched. And hence, the difficulty of this paper will only be given a slightly above average. Not necessarily because the questions are difficult, but just the numbers is going to throw you off. Hence, you'll be given a score of 6 out of 10. Overall, decent paper. This is one of the paper that you're gonna use as a daily practice, as a routine practice. You are not going to remember much about this paper. It's just going to be like having lunch for you. You know today is time to revise E Math. You can just take any paper, This paper will be part of that any paper that you have. It's just going to be a time practice for you to get a good sense of the time. It's just going to be a rather typical practice to see that you can maintain that standard that you have always had, even though you could have been revising other subjects for the past few days. And hence, this paper is going to be just like any other paper. You'll be given a rather average 6.5 out of 10. And if I had a student who had to sit for this paper under exam conditions, a fair expectation of her would be 80% in order for her to score an A in her actual O-levels. And finally, who would I recommend this paper to? I recommend this paper to every student out there. And this is going to be a paper that is only worth highlighting if you are a particularly weak student. That means in your recent prelims, you may not have done so well. You yourself know that you're not very mathematically inclined. This is the set of paper that you should sit down and take it as seriously as you can, where the marks reflected in this paper is going to give you a good gauge of what your actual O-level score could be if there was no moderation. Because as I said, this paper is going to feel very typical, it's going to feel very familiar for most O-level students. For most of them, this is just going to be any other practice, but for you, if you are a weak student, this will tell you whether you are at least amongst the middle of the pack. You want to at least be there if you're not very good at math, so that you know when your O-level comes around, eventually you can secure at least a B3 or maybe a B4. And hence, if you are a student taking the O-levels this year, if you are a student looking to do a time practice, if you are a student looking to keep a paper as part of your many stacks of paper that you're going to treat as typical practice, this paper would be for you. Alright, so we have come to the end of this Prelim Paper review of 2024 Bedok South Secondary School E Math Paper 1. Now if you like what I'm doing, follow me on TikTok, like my video, comment and share it with your friends. I'm sure this will help them. And for students who would like to try this paper, you are invited to join my Telegram channel where I've uploaded a summary along with a download link on my blog. Have a go at it, let me know what you think. And for students who would like to have your school paper being reviewed over here so that I can tell you what I thought about your paper, feel free to email them to me or DM me. I'll be waiting. Nothing else. This is Yao Le from Vantage Tutor, a class above the rest. Take care.